How's it going, folks? My name is Vinty Firth and I help men live life on purpose, with purpose. In today's video, I want to talk about anger. Now, for some of us men out there, anger is an emotion that we are afraid of. Anger is an emotion that we are maybe have some shame around. It's an emotion that often we feel like we can't express. And it's an emotion that can cause a lot of pain and a lot of damage. I remember being in my early 20s and I really struggled with expressing anger in a positive, healthy way. A lot of the anger that I experienced was internalized. So I took a lot of my own pain, a lot of my own hurt out on myself. And there's lots of times where I just flew off the handle and I threw things and I broke things and I said things that I really regretted saying. And it really felt like I didn't have control over the anger that I was experiencing. It was almost like I was a Jekyll and Hyde, press my buttons for long enough and I would snap. And I was very, very afraid of expressing any kind of emotion. Because I guess growing up as a man, you're taught that whether it's consciously or whether you pick it up unconsciously, you're taught that as a man, sharing emotion is a sign of weakness. It's a flaw in some shape or form. Growing up, you're taught that you need to be a man, you need to man up, you need to be tough. And any sign of emotion was seen as a sign of weakness. So as men, you learn very, very quickly that showing emotion isn't good. But you also learn that when you show anger, that it can, stop some of the attacks, some of the pressure that you get from other people. But it also created a lot of damage. And maybe you're experiencing a similar thing where you feel like the anger has control over you rather than you have control over it. So in this video, I want to just give you some tips, some insights into what you can do to begin to understand your anger, because it's about understanding it first. And I guess the first thing that I would say is that anger in and of itself isn't a bad thing. We often label anger as a negative emotion, but anger is just an emotion. It's an emotion that we can learn something from. It has something to teach us. So the first thing I would say is to reteach yourself and relearn that emotion is good. And anger is an emotion, and anger is good, and we can learn about. There's a message in the anger if we give ourselves permission to be able to slow down and to listen. I've alluded to this already in the video that anger is actually a secondary emotion. Anger is something that we feel after a certain number of emotions have built up. It's a little bit like an iceberg. So if you imagine an iceberg, at the tip you have anger and the waterline, and just underneath that waterline you could have a range of a whole lot of different emotions and feelings going on, from sadness, from ridicule, from regret, from embarrassment. And anger is the secondary emotion. So first we feel the regret, or we feel the discomfort, or we feel the sadness. And if we can't express that primary emotion, then we move to anger. So it's really important to understand that the anger that you are feeling, there's an emotion under that you haven't been able to express. So we got to deal with those underlying feelings. We got to deal with what comes up first. And that means reteaching yourself that expressing emotion is okay. Expressing how you're feeling is okay. The second point is to look at your family patterns. So you've grown up in a family, and by the nature of growing up in a family, you have picked up ways of being and doing and expressing. So how did your family react to emotion? How did your family communicate anger? And if you look at that, it can help you understand and unpick your own triggers and your own responses to anger. Also, check in with your body. We're not very good at being connected with our bodies. We're quite often caught up in our minds. So check in with your body. What are your bodily responses to anger? Do you get hot? Do you get hot? Do you breathe faster? Are you more twitchy? Do you speak faster? Does your heartbeat go? Is it a mix of all of those things plus some more? But understand what goes on in your own body, because when you understand your body's response to anger, then you become familiar with it. And when you're familiar with it, then you can learn to put in strategies when anger's coming up. The fourth thing here is to learn your triggers and learn your relaxation responses. So triggers and chill. So what are your triggers? What sets off your anger? What has to happen for you to start to become angry? Is it a way that someone speaks to you? Is it a look that someone has to give? Is it a feeling that you have to experience first, like guilt or shame or regret or embarrassment? And then you start to feel stuff in your body, and then anger comes up. So what are your triggers? What sets you off? What makes you feel that anger? And as well as your triggers, I want you to think about what relaxes you, what really calms you down. Is it going for a walk? Is it deep breathing? Is it removing yourself from the situation? And then I want you to put the two together and think about, when X happens, I now decide to Y. So when I feel embarrassed, I now decide to take a break and go for a walk. So you're learning your triggers, but you're also learning what relaxes you, what takes that level of anger down. And the last thing is to let it go. We all know that if we don't express our feelings, they build up and they build up. And holding on to our feelings, it builds up to a certain point, to the point where we just blow our tops. We get angry just at the smallest thing. And I see this time and time again, and I've seen it in my own life with anger, when we're not dealing with all of the emotion as and when it comes up and letting things go. It builds up to the point where we just get angry at the smallest things, and that is when it can become really damaging. So learn to feel your emotion. Learn to let emotion go. That way it won't build up so much where you just blow a gasket. Listen, there's so much more that we can talk about when it comes to anger. Hope those 5 tips were helpful. I will speak to you in the next video. Adios. Bye.